Today is day 266 of the podcast, and Proverbs 18:1 says, "He who separates himself seeks his own desire. He quarrels against all sound wisdom." We're going to look at that thought even at the creation. So, day after day of creation, when God had completed what he had made, he ended by saying, "And it was good." And then he said that every day until the creation of man. And when he created man, he had a different response. And his response was, it's not good for man to be alone. So he made a helper suitable for him. Now, there's a lot of jokes around this whole design of woman and it not man alone not being good. But for mankind to reflect the image and likeness of God, it was going to take more than a singular individual. It was going to take a we, because God is a community of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. It would take more than one. It would take man, woman, and God to reflect the nature of the Godhead. So this holy unity was an extension of a love relationship being reflected in heaven that God was going to make manifest in his creation on earth. And it would be a source of comfort. It would be a source of partnership, a source of companionship, a source of protection for the two of them to operate in this holy oneness that God was creating. Ecclesiastes 4:9-12 says, "Two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. For if either of them falls, the one will lift up his companion, but woe to the one who falls when there is not another to lift him up. Furthermore, if two lie down together, they keep warm. But how can one be warm alone? And if one can overpower him who is alone, two can resist him. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly torn apart." It's a subtle rebellion when we think we can operate in independence, and it's contrary to our creation design. Thinking highly of oneself and trusting yourself to be adequate for all, there's a deception in that. We are not adequate for all contingencies. And a separation, when we have that kind of attitude that I'm adequate for all, a separation occurs and it breaches this vision of what God had in mind. It breaches his ways, it breaches his will, and it opens up the door then for us to be living a powerless isolation. And perhaps that's why we see little power and authority functioning in the church today. We're often tempted to stand alone as individuals, as families, as congregations, to withdraw in conflict rather than to repair the union. The way of the world is to be self-protective, self-reliant, self-made, self-oriented, forfeiting Holy Communion. So the question today, what commands of God require that you carry them out in the context of community? What can't we do without one another?